To understand just how much school discipline had changed by the 1980s, it helps to compare those years with the experiences of earlier generations. One contributor left school in 1962 and remembered experiencing the cane until around 1960. Sixth form pupils at the school were generally exempt, although there may have been exceptions elsewhere. The recollection was that corporal punishment remained widespread in Britain well into the 1970s. However, campaigns against it, changing attitudes among parents, and the arrival of younger female teachers gradually altered the culture of many schools. Corporal punishment of girls also became increasingly restricted, although practices varied considerably from one school to another. By the beginning of the 1980s, these changing attitudes could sometimes be seen within individual schools. One former pupil left sixth form at a private school in 1982. Corporal punishment was still officially available, but it was clear that its use was declining. One of the final incidents remembered happened in 1980, when several pupils aged about 15 or 16 were caught in a serious fight. They were sent to their respective housemistresses. What happened next perfectly demonstrated the changing attitudes of the period. 3 groups of pupils were caned. Another 2 groups escaped the cane because their housemistresses did not believe in corporal punishment. Within the same school, therefore, the punishment a pupil received could depend largely upon the personal beliefs of the female teacher responsible for them. The former pupil saw this as evidence that the old disciplinary system was beginning to break down. Younger female teachers were gradually replacing older members of staff in senior positions, and many simply did not share their predecessors' enthusiasm for physical punishment. The pupil's own final experience came during the same year, at the age of 15. Rather than receiving the cane, the pupil was given the slipper, actually a plimsoll, by a female PE teacher. Looking back, the former pupil considered the punishment deserved. Another pupil who left school in 1982 remembered a similar atmosphere. The cane was still used, but only rarely. The pupil recalled a fifth form student proudly telling friends that they had been caned on the hand for petty vandalism. According to the pupil, the female yearhead had reluctantly explained that she felt there was no alternative but to use the cane. Afterwards came a warning. If it happened again, the punishment would be considerably more severe. What is perhaps most revealing is the reaction of another pupil who heard the story. "I thought caning was banned." It wasn't, but by then corporal punishment had become sufficiently unusual in some schools for pupils to believe that it had already disappeared. The pupil who had actually received the punishment seemed almost proud of the experience. Their hand was slightly red, but they claimed it was not particularly sore, and said they had not cried, although they admitted shouting out when struck. By the early 1980s, therefore, the old disciplinary system had not completely disappeared. Headmistresses, housemistresses, female yearheads, PE mistresses, and other female teachers could still use corporal punishment in schools where the rules permitted it. But the culture surrounding it was changing. The cane, slipper, and plimsoll had once been familiar features of school discipline. By the early 1980s, however, their position was becoming increasingly uncertain. One female teacher might still reach for the cane, while another working in the very same school might refuse to use corporal punishment at all. The old system was still there. But increasingly, it was becoming an exception rather than an everyday fact of school life.